When I was writing Crazy Love, it actually started with a different title. We had a working title of Obsessed with Jesus in a Lukewarm Church. And I kind of knew that I wouldn't end up with that title because it was kind of long, but I love the idea of being obsessed. There's something about that word because there's so many people in the American church today who like Jesus Christ. There's no doubt about it. They like him, maybe even have some love for him, but I certainly wouldn't describe them as being obsessed, and yet in Scripture, that's exactly what we see the people, that's exactly what they are. I mean, but it makes sense. It makes sense because you think about it, if this group of people really saw a man die and then rise from the grave, it makes absolute sense that once they saw that, they would say, okay, nothing else matters. I really don't care about my house. Look, here, you can have it. You can, because I know there's something far greater than what's going on this earth. And so I think that's why they started selling their possessions, caring for one another, going, man, I don't care about things on this earth. All I care about is I got to make sure all of my friends know. I got to make sure other people know, because I am sure now that there's life after death. So when you read that, it absolutely makes sense that these people are obsessed. That's why they're getting together in each other's homes saying, we can never forget what we saw. Let's take of this bread. Let's take of this cup. Let's always be reminded we saw the Son of God. We touched him, we spoke to him, and we saw him die for us, and then we saw him rise from the grave. Absolutely nothing else matters. Now, what wouldn't have made sense is if the Bible said these people experienced all that, they saw the Son of God tortured, they saw him die on a cross, they saw him rise again, so they decided to get together once a week and have services where one of them would preach and they'd have really cool music, and then they went back to life as usual. A lot of times when we read that passage in Acts and we hear about the first church, I know at least I did, I thought, man, that would have been so fun to be a part of a movement like that. So exciting, I should say, because people are selling everything, giving everything away. But I think in the back of our minds we think, well, that really can't happen in our culture. But it was interesting because we had this elder meeting a while back and we all asked the question, why not? I mean, why wouldn't we do it? I mean, since when does the culture dictate the way we live? Shouldn't we try to live biblically? And as we looked at that passage more, we said, you know what? It seems like that was something new in their culture as well. Otherwise, why did they put it there? You know, they began to sell their possessions and care for one another because they were so focused on mission, they didn't really care about their stuff. And we started thinking, you know, that's the way we ought to be. And it was the coolest time because the elders started saying to one another, wait, then why do I have life insurance? If you guys will take care of me, I don't have to worry about that. And we started looking at one another and saying, look, you know what, if anything happens to you, I would take care of your kids as though they were my own. My money's your money. This is the way we ought to live. We're more about this mission than we are about protecting our own stuff. And it was so cool because these guys would look me in the eyes and they would say, listen, if anything ever happened to you, I promise you that I would take care of your family. And I trusted them because by looking at their lives, I could tell, you know what, these guys are serious about God. They would not back off of that commitment. And so we started kind of relinquishing all of our possessions. I mean, honestly saying to each other, you know what, my car's your car. My bank account's your bank account. You know, we really are family. This really is a spiritual family here. And I don't use this word a whole lot, but it truly was awesome. I mean, there was something about that time where I walked away that night going, wow, that felt so biblical. That actually felt like Christianity. In your groups this week, it'd be great if you answered the question, why not? In other words, ask each other, well, why can't we live the way they did in the early church? Why wouldn't we do that? And be honest with issues of trust. because it takes tremendous trust to live that way, that others will actually follow through in their commitments to you. I mean, even in the early church, there was a sense of accountability. I mean, there were still guidelines where people said, look, if a man does not work, let him not eat. So it wasn't like a bunch of freeloaders, but it was a group of people that were all so committed to the mission that they weren't consumed with some of the things that we get consumed with. So in your groups, I guess it'd be great if it would be a time where you commit to one another and say, okay, are we really going to live this out? Because the truth is to live out biblical Christianity in the American church, that's a very difficult thing. And you really need each other for that. You need to hold each other accountable in these areas and say, look, you know what, we got to keep living this way, because otherwise you'll just fall into the pattern of the church. So maybe you take some time to just affirm your commitments to one another of how badly do we want this mission, and are we willing to live this way?